When beauty fades, so does love. When youthful radiance is gone, a woman's pursuit of beauty can become an obsession, a thirst that cannot be quenched until it draws blood. And what Celeste Bai sought was this very obsession. If I could give you a beautiful face in exchange for 10 years of your life, would you make the trade? Today, Isabella Zhao of Zhao Village was getting married. The sounds of festive music and firecrackers filled the streets in lively celebration. As she stepped out of the sedan chair, a gust of wind lifted a corner of her veil. The onlookers who caught a fleeting glimpse all gasped in awe. Her eyes were bright and alluring, her skin fairer than snow. Isabella Zhao was divinely beautiful. It was said that Isabella Zhao was skilled in music, chess, calligraphy, and painting. But she had remained secluded in her chambers, her face unseen by any. Seeing her today, she was truly a peerless beauty. Amid the murmurs of praise from beneath her red veil, Isabella Zhao gently touched her cheek and smiled. Just half a month ago, she had been in her room, holding her wedding dress and lamenting her reflection in the mirror. The face in the mirror was large and round with a dull, pockmarked complexion, small eyes, and a flat nose, the very picture of ugliness. The more she looked, the more she despaired. Heartbroken, she raised her hand to smash the mirror, but a soft voice suddenly spoke from behind her. A woman adorns herself for the one who loves her. Isabella Zhao, would you be willing to make a deal? Startled, she spun around. A woman in white had appeared in her room, though she could not say when. The woman had an ethereal air about her. Her hair cascaded down like a waterfall, and she wore a fan in it. A pendant shaped like a jade comb hung from her neck. Her features were cool and remote, her beauty otherworldly. Isabella Zhao was instantly captivated, and her hand drifted unconsciously to her own face. The woman looked at her, then removed the fan from her hair and the jade comb from her neck. She laid them in her palm, and in a soft glow, the fan and comb instantly expanded to several times their size. Her voice was clear and crisp, yet held an endless allure. I can grant you a beautiful appearance for the price of 10 years of your life. Are you willing? Celeste Bai's business always had clear prices, ranging from 5 to 20 years of life. Fair for all, with no deception. The flowing cloud comb, the floating smoke fan. Gently, she would comb through a woman's long hair. The woman's eager eyes would gaze at the fan's polished surface, as bright as the moon, while following Celeste Bai's instructions to picture her happiest memory. Then, all sorts of scenes would materialize on the floating smoke fan. Sometimes it was a sea of flowers, sometimes a gentle breeze sweeping through clouds, and other times a small pavilion in the soft spring rain. Amidst the swirling mists, the flowing cloud comb would move through the hair, stroke by stroke, fulfilling the magnificent dreams of women one by one. There was the wife of a chancellor, already exceptionally beautiful, who feared she couldn't hold her husband's heart. Eagerly, she traded 5 years of her life to achieve flawless beauty. There was another young woman, so plain that one might not find a homelier person in all the northern lands and southern borders. She had lived a lonely life, her only wish to find a good husband to grow old with. Sensing her intense desire and obsession, Celeste Bai appeared. This was the highest price she had ever charged, a full 20 years of life. Before the transaction, she sighed and asked the woman if she would truly have no regrets. The woman's face was resolute, her eyes shining. She would rather die than have regrets. And so, Celeste Bai granted her wish. Within the swirling mists, her plain face was utterly transformed. The woman finally gained the beauty she had craved her entire life. She found the husband of her dreams and fulfilled her wish to be a devoted wife and mother. But 3 years after her marriage, she died from a serious illness. As she lay dying, her gaze found Celeste Bai, who was invisible to others, and she gave a pale smile. 3 words escaped her lips. I don't regret it. No regrets for trading a lifetime of loneliness for 3 years of joy. She departed content, but her satisfaction left Celeste Bai feeling sorrowful and conflicted. This fulfillment she had granted. Was it right, or was it wrong? By the moonlit lake, she gently took the flowing cloud comb from her neck and laid it in her palm. The comb immediately expanded to several times its size. In its faint, shimmering light, a tiny figure materialized upon the comb's smooth jade surface. It was curled up in the void, sleeping peacefully. It was a little girl, about 5 or 6 years old, with delicate features. A soft glow enveloped her, making her look like a tiny sprite. Celeste Bai's eyes instantly filled with tenderness. Sue. Sue. She called the name a few times, her eyes growing moist. After a long moment, she sighed softly. Tell me, she murmured, is what I'm doing right or is it wrong? The cool moon was silent. Her Sue, of course, would not answer, but from the night wind a young man's voice suddenly rang out. Wrong, wrong, wrong. Of course it's wrong. Tampering with people's lives, it's utterly and completely wrong. Startled, she instantly concealed the flowing cloud comb and spun around. Under the moonlight, a figure flipped down from a tree, landing on the ground and giving her a lazy smile. You're a spirit who does bad deeds and then feels guilty about them. How very interesting. The youth had sharp, sword-like eyebrows and eyes as bright as stars. His robes fluttered in the wind as he cradled his sword, raising an eyebrow at her. My master told me most female spirits from the wilds are as beautiful as flowers, but you, a fan spirit, look so morose. Frankly, it makes the job of capturing you rather dull. As he spoke, the youth spread his hands in a helpless gesture. Celeste Bai ignored his teasing. She focused her energy, her face cold. I subsist on wind, frost, rain, and dew, and absorb the essence of the sun and moon. I have never harmed anyone. My dealings are merely willing transactions. What business is it of yours? Why don't you go after vicious ghouls instead of pestering me? What's your justification? The youth's lips curled into a roguish smile. A Taoist's duty is to capture spirits. It's the natural order of things. Who needs to reason with you? As the words left his mouth, his long sword was already unsheathed. It sliced through the air, heading straight for Celeste Bai. She dodged, and the floating smoke fan from her hair was in her hand, instantly expanding as she swung it sharply at the sword. The figure in white and the figure in black clashed instantly, dueling in mid-air. As sand flew and stones scattered, a foul stench suddenly wafted from the woods. The youth's expression changed. With a backward leap, he abandoned his fight with Celeste Bai and rushed into the trees. Before he left, he glanced back. His eyes were dark and clear, shining like stars in the moonlight. I'll be back for you, spirit. Celeste Bai retracted her floating smoke fan. Sniffing the air, she identified the stench as that of a corpse ghoul. It seemed the young Taoist had been hunting it and had somehow stumbled upon her instead. She shook her head, sighing at her run of bad luck. In a flash, she was gone, riding the wind. She couldn't have known that, from this day forward, she had brought great trouble upon herself. In Spiritfall Pond, there wasn't a single one among the thousands of spirits and ghouls who did not know the name Heavenly Master Gullen. He roamed the world, his spiritual power immense. He specialized in subduing demons and monsters, striking fear into the hearts of all lesser spirits. And the trouble Celeste Bai had stumbled into was none other than Heavenly Master Gullen's young apprentice, Finn. At the entrance to Blackbird Alley, in the light of the setting sun, Celeste Bai's client for this transaction was a woman named Eleanor Yu. Inside a humble cottage, a woman lay in bed, her face haggard and her hair completely white. She had grown old before her time. Eleanor Yu struggled to sit up. Celeste Bai glanced at her. Though worn down by illness, it was easy to see that she had once been a very beautiful woman. She looked at Celeste Bai, a trembling hand touching her white hair. Her voice was as faint as a thread. My husband is coming back. He earned a position at court and is coming to take me to the Imperial City. I don't want him to see me, not like this. Celeste Bai sighed. This was a deal she didn't want to make. One look at Eleanor Yu, and it was clear she didn't have much time left. What years of life could she possibly have left to trade? Celeste Bai frowned. You should focus on getting well. If your husband truly loves you, he won't care about your appearance. Tears immediately welled up in Eleanor Yu's eyes. She struggled out of bed and fell to her knees before Celeste Bai. Please, miss, grant my wish. I'm willing to pay any price. Her tearful pleas were like a scene from a well-worn opera. A wife waits 10 long years at home for her husband, who went to the capital for the imperial exams. Suddenly, he announces his return. Everyone says he has already married a high official's daughter in the imperial city and risen through the ranks. They say he is only coming back to divorce the wife of his humbler days. But the devoted woman refused to believe it. All she wanted was to reclaim the peach blossom beauty of her youth, to smile once more for the man she loved. Celeste Bai shook her head. She helped Eleanor Yu up and said coolly, "My minimum price is 5 years of life. How much do you think you can pay? I don't do business at a loss." Eleanor Yu grew frantic. She tried to say more, but a wave of anguish overcame her, and she coughed up a mouthful of blood. She clutched at Celeste Bai's sleeve, her tear-filled eyes showing grim resolve. "I know I don't have long. I'm not asking for a lifetime together. Just let me see him one more time, just one more time." In the midst of her desperate pleas, her head lolled to one side and she fainted. The floor was spattered with blood, the crimson dots like a tangle of peach branches after all their blossoms have fallen. Celeste Bai's hand began to tremble. The sight of the blood on the floor seared her eyes. Images flashed in her mind: fire, thunder, bitter cold, a warm body shielding her, and blood everywhere. That cold night, long ago at Spiritfall Pond, she had knelt before her master, Master Vare, clutching Sue, whose soul was about to scatter. She had felt this same heart-wrenching desperation. Just let me see her one more time. Just one more time. Seeing the stubborn tears in her eyes, Master Vare sighed with pity. He used all his power to save a single wisp of Sue's soul, locking it inside her true form, the flowing cloud calm, and gave it to Celeste Bai. From that day on, she began her long journey of collecting years of life. 10 years of a mortal's life could be exchanged for 1 year of cultivation for Sue. The flowing cloud comb had now accumulated hundreds of years of life, but it was still far from enough. Her Sue could still only manifest in the form of a child, attached to the flowing cloud comb. Sometimes, she would be sleeping peacefully. Sometimes, she would awaken. She would open her large, bright eyes, beam at Celeste Bai, and call out in a soft voice, "Sister, sister." The sound melted her heart. She often sighed at how women in the mortal world loved too deeply, how their obsessions grew too strong, ultimately hurting themselves and others. But she didn't realize that she was like someone gazing at flowers through a fog. The one person she couldn't see clearly was herself. To cross mountains and rivers for you, to wait a lifetime for you, through long years of devotion without regret. "I only want to see you one more time, just one more time, is enough." Celeste Bai stroked Eleanor Yu's white hair and gave a bitter smile. "So be it. I'll make a losing deal, just this once." On the rooftop, the youth cradled his sword, resting his head on his hand. Through a gap in the tiles, he watched everything unfolding in the room below. Beneath the stars and moon, his eyes were dark and bright. The corner of his lip curled up. What an interesting spirit. The moment Landon Meng stepped into the room, Celeste Bai, perched up on a roof beam, caught a faint stench she couldn't quite place. She frowned. Was there a corpse ghoul nearby? Eleanor Yu hurried over to greet him, barely able to contain her excitement. A blush spread across her peach-blossomed cheeks. But Landon Meng recoiled in disgust at her touch. He yanked something from his robe and flung it at her, without warmth. "This is your divorce letter. From today on, we have nothing to do with each other." Eleanor Yu froze as if struck by lightning. She clutched the paper with trembling hands, staring at him in disbelief. Landon Meng didn't even look at her. He snapped his sleeve and turned to leave. Celeste Bai's brows drew tight. She watched Eleanor Yu cry out and lunge forward, wrapping herself around Landon Meng's leg. Again and again she called him husband, tears blurring her eyes as she refused to let him go. So this was how it ended. A devoted woman, a heartless man, vows that once tasted like honey, finally turning into poison, lodged deep in the heart. Celeste Bai shook her head. Then her expression shifted. The corpse aura in the room suddenly thickened. Before she could sort out what felt wrong, she saw Landon Meng, dragged back by Eleanor Yu, grow impatient. Murderous intent flashed in his eyes. Slowly, he raised his hand, aiming for the crown of her head. Celeste Bai's face changed. No time to think. She sprang down from the beam and yanked Eleanor Yu away. In that same instant, the corpse aura slammed into her, dense enough to choke. Landon Meng's strike missed. He twisted toward her, his face warped and vicious. Only then did Celeste Bai jolt in realization. This corpse aura was coming from him. Before she could react, Landon Meng bared his fangs and lunged. Celeste Bai shielded Eleanor Yu. Her misty smoke fan didn't even have time to move. Landon Meng was about to crash into them when a gust swept through and a long sword sliced between them. "The corpse ghoul king made me hunt everywhere for you!" A boy's teasing voice rang out, sword light flashed, and Landon Meng sprang back to dodge. The boy turned and winked at Celeste Bai. "Spirit, we meet again. Told you I'd come find you." His sword moved like wind, swift as a silver dragon. Landon Meng was driven into disarray. Finn's mouth curled into a grin. Without slowing his blade, he pulled talismans from his chest and began chanting under his breath. Landon Meng, struggling to fend him off, went instantly pale. His gaze darted in panic and landed on Eleanor Yu, shaking nearby. Celeste Bai watched the fight intently, missing the vicious gleam in Landon Meng's eyes. She only saw Finn's stare sharpen. He formed a seal with one hand and shouted, "5 Thunderfire, bind!" Landon Meng barely dodged. Finn's sword, wrapped in Thunderfire, chased close behind. In a blink, Landon Meng sprang like a startled hare, seized the frail Eleanor Yu and yanked her in front of him as a shield. Finn's pupils contracted. He had no time to pull back. Carried by Thunderfire, the blade punched straight into Eleanor Yu's chest. Blood burst out. Firelight twisted Landon Meng's face. The burn tore a scream from him. His body suddenly went slack, and he collapsed to the floor with Eleanor Yu. Finn ripped his sword free and jabbed several points on Eleanor Yu's body with 2 swift fingers. At the same time, a wisp of foul green smoke leaked from the crown of Landon Meng's head, drifted out the window, and vanished. "Damn it, the corpse ghoul king is shedding its shell and escaping," cursing. Finn's clothes flared as he moved. He threw one last look at the dying Eleanor Yu, clenched his jaw, then vaulted out the window after the smoke, sword in hand. It had all happened in a heartbeat. Celeste Bai's breath caught. She rushed forward and lifted Eleanor Yu, soaked in blood. Guilt surged up like a tide. Blood stained her spotless white robe. Her body began to tremble. Eleanor Yu struggled out of her arms and crawled toward Landon Meng's body on the floor. With the corpse ghoul king possessing him, Landon Meng's vitality had long since been drained. What lay there now was only a cold corpse. Yet Eleanor Yu smiled. With eyes as tender as water, she gazed at Landon Meng's face. She rested against his chest, lifted a hand to stroke his cheek, and spoke so softly it was barely a sound. "Landon, I waited 10 years. I hoped for 10 years. I finally got to you." A blush rose to her cheeks. She wore the shy sweetness of a girl, even as her gaze began to drift away. "I still remember the day I saw you off. You pinned a peach blossom in my hair. It bloomed so bright, so beautiful, just like the day we married." Her voice thinned. She seemed to sink into memory and longing, smiling as her eyes slowly closed. Celeste Bai stood there, blood staining her white clothes, her hands hanging limp at her sides. She watched without moving for a long time. Moonlight poured in through the window, lighting her snow-pale face. After a long silence, she finally let out a drawn, strangled cry. Her hand flew to the jade comb at her throat, and her eyes turned suddenly fierce. Her white robe flared as she leapt out the window, chasing the trail of corpse aura. Celeste Bai and Finn formed a temporary alliance to hunt the killer, something she had never imagined. The corpse ghoul king fled into the mountains. They hunted together for 10 days and still failed to catch the slippery corpse ghoul. In a mountain cave before a campfire, Finn hummed a tune. He propped his sword upright and cheerfully roasted a wild rabbit. Celeste Bai stared at the sword he was using, speechless. If she wasn't mistaken, this was the dragon-suppressing sword of Heavenly Master Galan, famed across the realm. Countless demons and monsters had died under that blade. If any of them could see it now, they'd probably die all over again with their eyes wide open. Celeste Bai sighed. Finn seemed to know exactly what she was thinking. He gave a snort of laughter. "Roasting demons is roasting. Roasting rabbits is roasting. 100 years from now, it's all just scrap iron. Why cling to an empty reputation?" He lifted the rabbit, brought it to his nose, and inhaled deeply, even fanning the scent toward himself with exaggerated relish. "Wow, smells incredible. Even better than the 8 treasure chicken at the Drunken Immortal restaurant. Might even lure that corpse ghoul king over. He only drinks human blood and drains vitality." The calm voice cut him off. Finn paused and looked up into Celeste Bai's steady eyes. After a brief silence, he burst out laughing, pointing at her and shaking his head. "The last few 100 years of your life must have been boring. I've caught so many spirits, and you're the first one I've met this stiff. It's a waste you're not teaching in a school." Celeste Bai looked at him without expression. When Finn finally stopped laughing, he shrugged and offered the rabbit toward her. "Want to try my cooking? Miss it now, and you'll never get another chance." Celeste Bai shook her head. "Has your compass sensed the corpse ghoul? The corpse aura feels weaker and weaker. It may have already escaped these mountains." Finn leaned back carelessly, tore off a piece of rabbit, and stuffed it into his mouth, chewing with relish. "Who knows? Didn't expect you, a fan spirit, to be this loyal." Celeste Bai glanced at him. "You wouldn't understand." She rose and walked out of the cave. Moonlight washed over her white robes, making her look dreamlike, unreal. Finn watched her clear, airy figure vanish into the distance. He pouted, tore off another piece of rabbit, and chewed, thoughtful. On the mountaintop, Celeste Bai opened her palm. The flowing cloud comb shimmered with a faint glow and transformed into a tiny figure. "Sister." A sweet, obedient voice. A small, elf-like girl stood in the dim light, tilting her face up as she giggled. "Sister, sing for Sue." Celeste Bai's gaze softened like water. She looked at the little girl, parted her lips, then blushed and murmured awkwardly, "Sister can't sing." The moment she spoke, laughter boomed behind her. Finn stepped out from the tree's shadows, sword cradled in his arms, bright eyes crinkling as he laughed. "Little ghost, your sister's clumsy. All she can do is comb someone's hair. Let your big brother sing for you instead." He strode to Celeste Bai's side, ignoring her frosty expression, and studied the small figure in the glow without the slightest restraint. "So this is why you've been collecting lifespan everywhere. You really are a loyal, affectionate spirit." Sue's big black eyes turned with curiosity. She rarely saw strangers. Now, seeing Finn, she lit up. She clapped her hands and said softly, "Then, big brother, sing for Sue." Finn's mouth curved. Hugging his sword, he grinned. "Sure, what do you want to hear? I can sing anything from north to south, but I'm best at the little songs the girls sing at the Crimson Sleeve Pavilion." He was getting carried away when Celeste Bai closed her hand. "Sue, are you tired? Sleep." In the scattered glow, the small figure yawned. Her eyes drooped as they began to close, yet she still muttered stubbornly in a drowsy voice. "Sue isn't tired. Sue wants to hear Big Brother sing." Her voice trailed off. The tiny figure curled up and fell asleep. The flowing cloud comb's light slowly dimmed, and in an instant the jade comb returned to pendant size. Finn gaped. When he recovered, he pointed at Celeste Bai and rattled on. "Hey, this is jealousy and revenge. Sue clearly wanted to hear me sing." Celeste Bai ignored him. She hung the flowing cloud comb back at her throat, glanced at Finn, and turned to leave. But a hand reached out and caught her sleeve mid-swing. She frowned and looked back. Finn's eyes still shone like stars, but the carefree smile on his lips carried a trace of seriousness. "Stop looking so cold, like everyone owes you 1,000 taels of gold. If something's on your mind, say it. Maybe I'll go soft and help you." Celeste Bai pulled her sleeve free and lifted her eyes to him. Her voice was light, but left no room for argument. "I don't need your help, and you can't help me. Sue and I are not the same kind as you. Once this is over, we go our separate ways. Just don't keep pestering us, or making things difficult for Sue and me." She paused, then added, "It would be a waste to die under your dragon-suppressing sword." Her ice-pale face tried to form a smile, but she couldn't manage it. She sighed in frustration and turned away. She didn't see Finn freeze for a moment behind her, then rub his nose and smile, amused. Celeste Bai walked on, planning the road ahead in her mind. She hadn't gone more than a few steps when her sleeve was seized again. Her brows knit. She turned, about to speak, only to see Finn raise his eyebrows and jerk his chin toward the town below the mountain. She tilted her head and followed his gaze. Among the countless lights below, a hazy plume of black smoke rose from one spot. She focused, and her face tightened sharply. It was the corpse ghoul king's aura. In front of the moonlit pavilion, people streamed in and out. 7 colored glass lanterns shimmered in the wind. In the night, upstairs and down, flirtatious women stretched out lotus-pale arms and laughed sweetly as they beckoned for business. Tonight was a grand night for the moonlit pavilion. Flowers competed in beauty, and patrons gathered. They were choosing the pavilion's new top courtesan. Finn held his sword and stared up at the signboard, clicking his tongue for a long while. His handsome, youthful face drew frequent glances from the women above. One after another, they tossed fragrant handkerchiefs down at him. The madam at the door came up beaming. She fluttered her handkerchief eagerly toward Finn's face. Such a handsome young hero. Please, come in and take a seat. It's lively tonight. The bidding for the top courtesan is about to begin. The heavy, powdery scent made Finn sneeze hard. He rubbed his nose. Beside him, Celeste Bai was already walking forward, as if no one else existed. Finn hurried to grab her, looking her up and down at those white robes. "You're going in like that?" Celeste Bai shot back. "How else?" She pulled her sleeve free and stepped inside with a soft flutter of fabric. Behind her, Finn reached out, mouth half open, half laughing, half at a loss. Wouldn't those bastards inside think he'd booked the top courtesan in advance? Inside the moonlit pavilion, song and dance filled the air. Finn followed behind Celeste Bai, and without leaving a trace, shielded her, blocking the hungry, wolfish stares. He glanced around. An idea struck. He leaned close to her ear and grinned wickedly. "Why not let your Sue out to see the world? Tonight's a big event." Celeste Bai turned and gave him a sharp look. Then she said seriously, "Has your compass reacted? On the mountain we sense the corpse aura strongest here, but once we came inside we can't sense it at all. The corpse ghoul may have just drunk blood and is masking its aura." Finn spread his hands, neither agreeing nor denying, and pulled out his compass to inspect it. The silver needle trembled slightly, but there was no strong reaction. That crafty corpse ghoul had indeed hidden its scent well enough to fool the compass. Finn understood. He looked up to speak, but a thick perfume hit him full in the face. Beneath a bright handkerchief was the same madam from the door, the one who'd tried to drag him inside. She led a group of gorgeously dressed women through the hall, swaying like water snakes, smiling as they urged patrons to start placing bids. The gaudy handkerchief slapped onto Finn's face again. The madam's grin was so wide, her powder looked ready to fall. "Young hero, all of our 12 beauties of the seasons are here. If you fancy anyone, you can bid and tip now. The more you put in the red envelope, the better your chance later on stage of taking home your beauty." Finn sneezed and backed away a few steps. He pointed at Celeste Bai beside him and flashed a roguish grin. "My wife is already this beautiful. Which of your 12 beauties could compare? Why not have everyone give me red envelopes instead? Later we'll split it 50-50, and you'll make a fortune." The madam scolded him with a huff. With a flick of her handkerchief, she herded the girls away. Finn watched them go and sighed theatrically. But in that same moment, the compass in his hand began to tremble. His expression shifted. Among the girls, one glanced back at him, eyes wary. When she saw him looking, she ducked her head fast and hurried off. Finn's eyes lit up. He turned to call Celeste Bai to follow, and his hand closed on empty air. He spun around. Only then did he realize Celeste Bai was already gone. In a quiet upper room, gray and lifeless, the noise outside was cut off completely. The air reeked of rotten decay, steeped in a deep, endless loneliness. A woman held a bronze mirror and kept patting rouge onto her bleak face. Hope and despair flickered in her eyes. Her voice was cold and worn, no longer the sweet, lilting tone she once used when singing for patrons. "They're choosing a top courtesan again outside? How lively! You always see new faces laughing. Whoever hears the old ones cry." She looked up at the woman in white before her and smiled stupidly. 15 years ago, I was the top courtesan of the moonlit pavilion. Now I'm old, my beauty gone. No one remembers me anymore. No one remembers Ivy from back then." Celeste Bai looked at her calmly, removed the flowing cloud comb from her neck, and spoke in a clear voice that carried an endless, spellbinding pull. "I can give you beauty and a new face. All I ask is 10 years of your lifespan. Do you agree?" Finn realized he'd misjudged two things tonight. First, he'd underestimated his own charm. Second, he'd overestimated Celeste Bai's sense of priorities. Heaven was his witness. He truly hadn't thought that girl's glance back at him was because she was possessed by the corpse ghoul king and felt guilty. No, she had genuinely, unmistakably fallen for him. At a time like this, he'd blundered into a romantic stroke of luck. Love at first sight, without even noticing. What a ridiculous mistake. When he chased after her, her eyes looked like they could drip water. She tugged him into a corner. Her face flushed like drifting clouds, her voice thin as a mosquito. Daisy only performs, I don't sell myself. I was heartbroken, thinking I wouldn't be able to keep my purity tonight. But then I met you. If you mean it, come bid later. Daisy will recognize you alone. If I miss you, then I'll smash my head against that pillar. I'd rather die than sink into filth. Her delicate face tightened as she bit her lip. The words sent cold sweat down Finn's back. Before he could speak, Daisy shoved something into his arms and ran off, shy and flustered. Finn looked down. A lock of hair, black and fine, tied into a knot. A small note was attached. He opened it. The ink was rich, the handwriting neat and pretty. Only one line. A knot of shared hearts, tied to bind two hearts. Young master, I'll wait for you. Finn opened his mouth, not sure whether to laugh or cry, but he couldn't deal with that now. The urgent thing was finding the corpse ghoul king. Downstairs, the bidding for the top courtesan was already roaring. Finn avoided the crowd and, guided by his compass, headed up to the second floor. A faint stink of corpse rot seeped through the air. He followed it and found a body slumped in a corner. Willow brows, painted lips, powdered face, bright clothes. It was the madam, still alluring in death. Finn understood at once. He reached to his chest, eyes narrowing. Sure enough, his demon-subduing talismans were gone. He'd already felt that the madam's perfume was far too strong. He'd never expected it was the corpse ghoul king using it to mask its corpse aura. It must have stolen his talismans while urging him to bid. Damn it, another person, dead. Finn cursed under his breath. Without those talismans, things were going to get ugly. He bent down, about to inspect the corpse more closely, when the compass in his hand suddenly shook violently. He kicked the door open. The first thought in Finn's mind was, people die for money, birds die for food. Celeste Bai never forgot her business. Not for a moment. Everyone in the room looked up at him. Celeste Bai was gripping the woman's long hair, the flowing cloud comb in her hand, about to sweep down. Before she could speak, Finn's sword was already out, thrusting straight toward the woman before the bronze mirror. The woman reacted instantly, flashing aside. The sword wand only grazed her ear, slicing off a lock of hair. It happened in a blink. Celeste Bai understood at once. With a sweep of her sleeve, she drew her misty smoke fan and stood shoulder to shoulder with Finn. The woman settled several steps away. She snapped her head up, feral. Fangs flashed. Celeste Bai heard Finn's teasing voice at her ear. You really don't have to be this desperate, do you? Doing business with the corpse ghoul king itself? Lanterns lit the night. Fireworks filled the sky. The night market swarmed with people, lively everywhere. By the lake, young women crouched in small groups. They held lotus lanterns and made one beautiful wish after another. Then, devoutly, they set the lights afloat and watched the tiny glow carry their hopes farther and farther across the water. By the time they reached this small town, a month had passed since the corpse ghoul king escaped from the moonlit pavilion. Finn's demon hunting group had grown again, in a way so strange he could only laugh to himself. A Taoist, a fan spirit, a runaway top courtesan, and a little girl who popped out now and then to call him Big Brother. That night, the corpse ghoul king tried to drain the several hundred years of lifespan stored in the flowing cloud comb. Even with Finn and Celeste Bai working together to trap it, they still failed to catch it. It had stolen his demon-subduing talismans, and its power seemed to be growing stronger and stronger. If they didn't capture it soon, it would bring catastrophe. In the chaos, he took the newly chosen top courtesan of the moonlit pavilion with him, Daisy. It started as simple pity, yet Daisy refused to leave. Instead, she tended to him attentively along the road, which gave him a headache. Daisy believed Celeste Bai was his wife. The whole way, she softly called Celeste Bai sister. Celeste Bai rarely answered. One looked pitiful, one was cold as frost. Finn's head hurt even more. Sue, however, liked this sister who could sing little tunes. Daisy's singing was gentle and sweet, like spring wind on the skin. Whenever Sue smiled in delight, softness would finally flicker in Celeste Bai's eyes. She also grew much friendlier toward Daisy. That day, they reached the town just in time for the local lantern festival. Daisy tugged Celeste Bai to the lakeside to set lanterns afloat. Finn grinned and was about to follow when Daisy pouted and scolded. A girl's thoughts are all tucked inside her lantern. How can you go peeking? Finn shrugged, grabbed a jar of good wine and whistled as he wandered off, unconcerned. He hadn't gone far before he slipped into the shadows, eyes smiling with mischief. A lantern offering? What's so secret about that? If you won't let me watch, I'll watch anyway. A night breeze brushed the shore. The lake glittered. Daisy closed her eyes over the lantern in her hands and whispered a wish. Then, blushing, she set it gently on the water. Celeste Bai watched from the side, her expression as calm as still water. Suddenly, Daisy turned, dropped to her knees with a thud, and pleaded, "Sister, Daisy truly loves him. I don't dare place myself above you. I only ask for a name, a place at his side. Let me serve him and you for the rest of my life, and I'll be satisfied. Please allow it." Finn had been drinking leisurely. Hearing that, he nearly sprayed wine. He forced it down with effort, and then Celeste Bai's calm voice reached him. "Tell him that. There's nothing between us." With that, she flicked her sleeve and turned to leave. Daisy hurried forward and grabbed her sleeve. "Daisy's life is bitter. Please, sister, allow it." Celeste Bai gently brushed her hand away. Her face remained calm. Looking into Daisy's watery, tear-filled eyes, she said evenly, "He is a Taoist, and I am a spirit. Once this is over, we will have nothing to do with each other. I have things I must do. If you want to follow him, then follow him." Along the way, Daisy had already sensed Celeste Bai was no ordinary person. Hearing her say it outright didn't frighten her. Instead, she grabbed Celeste Bai's sleeve again, urgency in her voice. "But he doesn't think that way. His feelings for you, can't you see them?" Those words made even Celeste Bai pause, and Finn spat his wine straight out. Daisy and Celeste Bai both turned. Finn walked out with his sword in his arms, helpless, forcing 2 dry laughs in sheer awkwardness. Celeste Bai looked at him, her gaze complicated. She flicked her sleeve and drifted away, leaving Daisy behind, tear-streaked, slumped on the ground. Finn watched the white-robed figure recede. In his ears, that cool voice seemed to sound again. "Once this is over, we will have nothing to do with each other." He twisted his mouth into a self-mocking smile. The familiar, unruly grin carried a faint bitterness now. A sigh seemed to ride the wind. What a spirit, deeply devoted and deeply heartless all the same. After that night, a delicate tension grew between the three of them. Celeste Bai sighed. It was time for their journey together to end. Just as she was preparing to leave without a word, someone else appeared. It was Finn's master, Heavenly Master Galen. He had found them. He had the very air of an enlightened sage. After hearing Finn's explanation, he didn't give Celeste Bai any trouble, but his bright, piercing eyes never stopped scrutinizing her. Celeste Bai decided to leave at once. Now that Heavenly Master Galen had arrived, there was no need for her to stay. With him on the hunt, success was all but guaranteed. But as Celeste Bai was about to depart, a sudden crisis erupted. It was midnight in the moonlit woods. When Finn arrived, Celeste Bai was already badly wounded, and Heavenly Master Galen's staff was about to deliver the final blow. Alarmed, Finn drew his sword and flashed forward, placing himself in front of Celeste Bai. "Master, don't!" His strike blocked. Heavenly Master Galen leaped back and landed a few paces away, his eyes cold and sinister. Finn helped Celeste Bai up and began channeling his vital energy into her. He looked at Heavenly Master Galen and asked urgently, "Master, didn't you promise me you wouldn't harm her?" Celeste Bai had planned to slip away in the middle of the night, but Heavenly Master Galen had followed her into the woods and attacked without explanation. At first, thinking of Finn, she held back, wanting only to escape. But every one of Galen's moves was a killing blow, devoid of the calm dignity he had shown during the day. When his hand, sharp as an eagle's talon, viciously clawed at the cloud flow calm on her neck, she realized his true intent. Shocked, she began to fight for her life. If Finn hadn't arrived when he did, she would have been killed by that staff. Galen still seemed wary of Finn. Gripping his staff, he watched with cold eyes as Finn carried Celeste Bai away on his back. The moonlight cast his face in a chilling light. He suddenly snapped at a spot in the woods. "Come out!" The leaves rustled, and a moment later, Daisy emerged, trembling. She had followed Celeste Bai out as well. Horrified by the vicious fight, she had run back to wake Finn. Galen had known someone else was there, but had been too occupied to deal with it. Now, with a sinister smile, he walked toward Daisy, step by step. A cold wind blew. Daisy backed away in terror, but Galen just gave a strange, chilling smile. His voice was raspy and harsh. "What a foolish girl you are. If I had killed that fan spirit just now, wouldn't my dear disciple belong only to you?" In the moonlit forest, Celeste Bai lay on Finn's back. She weakly explained what had happened. Her face was pale, and with her last bit of strength, she whispered something in his ear before passing out. Finn's body jolted. The words were soft and slow, but each one struck his heart like a hammer. "Your master." Something seems wrong with him. A torrential rain began to fall. They took shelter in a ruined temple. When Daisy returned, she was soaked to the bone, looking completely lost. Finn was busy treating Celeste Bai's wounds and didn't pay her much mind, only telling her to dry herself by the fire. Raindrops fell from Daisy's eyelashes as she stared blankly at Celeste Bai. Galen's tempting voice echoed in her ears. "My disciple has no parents. In his heart, I am like a father to him. If you steal the jade comb from that fan spirit's neck and bring it to me, I will ensure he gives you a place by his side. A place by his side, staying with Finn forever, no longer alone and helpless." Daisy's body trembled uncontrollably. No one noticed as her small, delicate hands slowly clenched into fists. When Celeste Bai awoke, her wounds were already much better. Finn had fallen asleep watching over her, his handsome features etched with deep exhaustion. She remembered how he had shielded her, and her heart softened. A small smile touched her lips. She subconsciously reached for the cloud flow comb at her neck, but the smile on her face froze, and a cold sweat broke out. Her cloud flow comb was gone. Her vision went black. The same heart-wrenching pain she'd felt at Spiritfall Pond all those years ago seized her, so sharp she could barely breathe. Startled awake, Finn opened his eyes to see Celeste Bai's deathly pale face, her voice filled with a panic he had never heard before. "Sue! Sue! My Sue is gone!" With each frantic cry, Celeste Bai's body trembled. Finn's expression shifted, and he suddenly pulled her into his embrace, his own heart aching as he comforted her. "Don't worry. Don't be afraid. I'm here. I'm here." The world seemed to fall silent. Celeste Bai's long eyelashes trembled. Pressed against Finn's chest, listening to the beat of his heart, she felt tears welling in her eyes. An image of Sue's smiling face floated before her. During those anxious days and nights at Spiritfall Pond, Sue had held her just like this, whispering softly, "Don't be afraid, don't be afraid. I'm here, I'll always be with you." Back then, she and Sue had just been banished from the heavens to Spiritfall Pond with their master, Master Vare. She couldn't adapt, and the sight of the nightly parade of ghosts would terrify her for hours. Sue would hold her just so, whispering comfort in her ear until she could fall asleep peacefully. His warm embrace felt like being back among the clear winds and white clouds of the heavens. No wonder you don't have a trace of demonic energy. In fact, you have the air of a celestial, so your master is someone of great importance, the immortal guardian of the ghosts of the River of Oblivion. Forgive my ignorance, I suppose I should call you an immortal. Finn's light-hearted teasing made Celeste Bai manage a pale smile. Once her emotions had settled, he took a compass from his robes and said to her seriously, "I think I might know where Sue is." An image flashed through his mind of Daisy's distraught face from the night before. His voice grew grim. "You were right. Something is definitely wrong with my master. The aura he had last night, it was just like an old acquaintance of ours." A flicker of understanding in her eyes, Celeste Bai spoke the three words at the same time as Finn. "The Corpse Ghoul King." Human nature is complex. The line between good and evil is often drawn by a single thought. One thought leads to enlightenment, another to damnation. Human desire is endless. The Corpse Ghoul King exploited this weakness, seeping into the bodies of those with deep-seated obsessions. Heavenly Master Galen was a great master of his generation, but he overreached during his training, leaving him vulnerable to possession. But he was no ordinary man. Though he couldn't expel the Corpse Ghoul King, the king couldn't completely devour him either. The two were locked in a stalemate. At night, when the yin energy was strong, the Corpse Ghoul King, suppressed by Galen during the day, would emerge and take control of his body. That was why he had attacked Celeste Bai that night. When Finn and Celeste Bai found the Corpse Ghoul King's lair, they were met with a horrific sight. The cave was filled with bones, and the stench of blood was overwhelming. In the center of the cave, Daisy was strung up high, her blood being drained away drop by drop. Finn's pupils contracted, his sword flew out like the wind as he leaped forward to cut her down. Daisy lay dying in his arms. Go. The Heavenly Master, he's completely turned into a monster. He's coming back. Finn was choked with grief. Daisy raised a blood-soaked hand, trying to touch his face. A faint smile touched her lips as her eyes slowly lost focus. Celeste, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to steal your comb. I just wanted to be with Finn forever. I just wanted a home to have. Her voice trailed off. Her delicate hand fell limp. Celeste Bai's face turned ashen. Finn let out a heart-wrenching cry. No. A lover's knot to bind two hearts. My lord, I will wait for you. The girl with the gentle smile was finally gone. Tragically, she died as she had lived, utterly alone. The most beautiful moment of her life had been that one stolen glance at him, back at the moonlit pavilion. Decades of longing, all the love, hate, and foolish desire of this world had been poured into that single look. In the cave, as Celeste Bai and Finn were lost in their grief, a long, cold laugh echoed from the entrance. Excellent, excellent. You've all come here to die. I'll be happy to oblige you. Sword energy flared and the wind from the fan roared like a dragon. Finn and Celeste Bai fought side by side, locked in combat with Heavenly Master Galen in midair. Amidst a whirlwind of sand and stone, Celeste Bai charged forward. Disregarding her own safety, she snatched the cloud flow calm from Galen's neck. Just as his palm was about to strike her chest, Finn roared and threw himself in front of her. He took the blow, and they both crashed to the ground. Finn propped himself up on his sword, blood trickling from the corner of his mouth. He cried out in anguish at the ferocious face of Heavenly Master Galen. Master, wake up! Don't let the corpse ghoul king control you anymore. Heavenly Master Galen's steps faltered. The hand gripping his staff trembled, as if he too were struggling in agony. A glimmer of hope appeared in Finn's eyes. He pressed on. Master, do you remember? You doted on me when I was little. I was so mischievous, always neglecting my training. Every time you brought out the board to discipline me, you could never bring yourself to actually use it. Galen clutched his head. Stop talking, he rasped. Don't say another word. An expression of torment flickered across his face. His complexion shifted from red to white, then from white to a ghastly blue. It was a bizarre and horrifying sight. Finn continued his emotional appeal. Suddenly, Galen shouted, coughed up a mouthful of blood, and cried, Finn! Overjoyed, Finn started to move forward, but Galen held up a hand to stop him. He struggled to pull a paper talisman from his robes and threw it at Finn's feet. Quickly, Finn! Light the 5 thunder fire. Use the dragon-taming sword in your hand and kill me. Kill your master. Quickly. Finn felt as if he'd been struck by lightning. Tears streamed down his face as he shook his head, clutching his sword. No. I won't. Galen pleaded desperately, but as they were at a standstill, his face suddenly contorted. Alarmed, Celeste Bai saw fangs emerge from his mouth as he lunged at Finn. In that split second, without thinking, she threw herself in the way. Blood sprayed through the air. Celeste Bai's body fell limply from the sky. The warm splatter of blood on his eyelashes shocked Finn back to his senses. He cried out in pain. Celeste Bai. Galen struck again. In a flash, Finn knew he could hesitate no longer. With a flick of his sword, he pierced the talisman on the ground, rapidly chanted the incantation, and with tears staining his face, roared at the heavens. 5 thunder fire, ignite. The sword plunged straight through Heavenly Master Galen's body. He let out a long howl as flames erupted from him, burning fiercely. Finn collapsed to his knees, wailing. From within the flames, a faint voice drifted out. Finn, you did well. The fire blazed higher. A compassionate voice drifted from afar, the same voice he remembered from his childhood. When his master would hold him on his knee and gently recite, all composed things are like a dream, a phantom, a drop of dew, a flash of lightning. Under the moonlit trees, a young man and an adorable little girl walked down a path, one behind the other. In the years that followed, he took her to many places, from the southern rivers to the northern forts, from the eastern seas to the western deserts. He carried 3 things in his bundle that he never parted with. 2 urns of ashes, one for his beloved master, the other for the girl who had loved him deeply. The third item was a fan. He would often sit on a mountaintop, play a long melody on his flute, and stroke the fan as tears fell. The one memory he wished he could destroy was the memory of that day. The day his master, who had raised him since childhood, was reduced to ashes. The day the girl who only wanted a home died in his arms. And she hadn't even left him a memento to hold on to. Her white-clad form had taken the blow for him, a fatal injury beyond saving. With her last bit of strength, she had transferred all her spiritual power and a primal core to Sue, giving her a physical body, no longer bound to the cloud flow calm. As for Celeste, her face grew pale, her body slowly turning transparent. She told him she was entrusting Sue to him. She still wore her usual faint smile, but he was a sobbing wreck. As she faded, she leaned close to his ear and apologetically revealed her deepest secret. "Actually," she said, "Sue is not my brother. He is my husband." As the world spun around him, her pale smile revealed the whole truth. There was once a celestial being in the heavens, an immortal who guarded the river of oblivion. His name was Master Vera, and he carried with him a floating smoke fan and a cloud flow comb. The immortal was lonely and fell in love with his own shadow. The floating smoke fan, Celeste Bai, and the cloud flow comb, Sue, were companions for 1,000 years. Developing souls of their own, they also fell in love. Later, for some transgression, Master Vera was banished to the mortal realm by the Heavenly Emperor, confined to Spiritfall Pond to guard the teeming ghosts and demons. She and Sue followed him down. Every 500 years, she had to endure a heavenly tribulation. During one of these trials, Sue was struck by heavenly lightning, and his soul was scattered while trying to protect her. Her master, Master Vera, used all his power to save a single fragment of Sue's soul and sealed it within his true form, the cloud flow comb. From then on, she carried Sue with her, beginning the long journey of collecting lifespans. The cloud flow comb was a yin-yang object. Its gender would only be determined upon reaching maturity, based on the gender of its owner. Since Master Vera's male, Sue had taken the form of a gentle, refined man. But with Celeste Bai as his owner, his soul existed within the cloud flow comb in the form of a little girl, Sue. Celeste Bai had hoped to gather enough essence for him to reach maturity, regain his male form, and return to the Sue he once was. But she couldn't see that path to its end. Her longing, day after day, night after night, was ultimately left unfulfilled. She had witnessed so much love and hate in the mortal world. In the end, everyone hurt and was hurt by their own obsessions. This kind of obsession was self-destructive, one that wouldn't stop until it drew blood. The Buddha spoke of the 8 sufferings. Of these, the inability to get what one seeks is the bitterest of all. Everyone has something they cannot obtain, and so they struggle in a sea of suffering, unable to find release. Her obsession was Sue. For him, she had crossed mountains and rivers. For him, she had waited a lifetime. Through all those long years, she never gave up, never regretted it. All she wanted was to see him again, just one more time. That would be enough. The wind swept across the sky. Celeste Bai gave a sad smile and shed a single tear. Her transparent body finally dissipated like smoke, drifting away through Finn's fingers. Another year passed. The grass grew long, and the orioles took flight. A young man and a little girl walked across a bridge, one behind the other. "Brother, where are we going next?" "The moon osmanthus trees are in full bloom. I'm taking Sue to the southern frontier to see the flowers. I know you'll love it." "Brother, when will sister come back?" The man's steps faltered. He looked up at the vast cloudless sky. A smile touched his lips, but his eyes welled with tears. "Sister has gone to a very faraway place. We'll search for her everywhere we go. One day we'll find our sister. To find her, to see her again. Just one more time. That would be enough."